The Youth Quota Bill is gaining ground at the 10th Assembly, seeking to secure 30% quota for youth under 35 inclusive of young women and persons with special needs for both national and state assemblies. Currently, the bill has scaled through its first reading on the floor of the Green Chamber. This episode of the program will also focus on entrepreneurship and women's role in politics. I welcome you to the program, Young Parliamentarians, for this week. We shall be right back after this timeout. Don't go away. Welcome back. Before we proceed to the interview segment of the program, let's quickly take the report on the recently convened Youth Policy Roundtable for Change. As staggered elections in some states and the 2027 general elections gather momentum, Nigerian youth under the aegis of Youth Quota in Parliament advocacy are demanding at least 20% representation in the 11th National Assembly and State Assemblies. This resonated at the Dialogue for Change, a political engagement held in Abuja. The report. Recall that in October 2025, the advocacy group presented the proposed Youth Quota Bill to the House of Representatives Committee on Youth in Parliament, consequent upon which adoption and sponsorship followed.
Why are we here today?
The roundtable therefore brought together representatives of various political parties, youth leaders, civil society organizations, as well as executives towards commitment for youth candidacy.
The 10th Assembly has less than 8 young persons under 35, no young women in the 10th Assembly. So we give ourselves the target to achieve at least 20% of young people being represented both at National and State Assembly.
Youth should therefore avail themselves the opportunity provided by the 2027 elections to register as members of political parties of their choice, express interest to contest for legislative seats or any position of their choice, and engage relevant stakeholders.
The amplification of youth voices also entails the empowerment of the new generation in decision-making and inclusion of young women and people with special needs.
It's about how we picked on people that we know they can go, and let us sacrifice our time, our money, our effort, our recommendation, even to the party chairmen, like they said, and let us push them there.
The only thing they believe in is what we did in 2020, the NSAS. Once we do something like that in the election, we believe we can do something. Thank you.
The Youth Quota Bill, which has scaled through first reading in November 2025, currently awaits second reading. Interestingly, I have a youthful and vibrant guest on the program today. His name is Blessing Flexbana Ifeso. He's a convener, Youth Quota in Parliament. He's also the CEO, Nigerian Youth Policy Development Advocacy Initiative, and toppled as the president, Nigerian Youth in Politics, an organization committed to empowering Nigerian youth to take the lead in shaping the country's political landscape. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Okay, let me start from this point. You are the convener, Youth Quota in Parliament, as we witnessed last week during your policy dialogue. And at the same time, you are the CEO, Nigerian Youth Policy Development Advocacy Initiative. What birthed these two initiatives?
Okay, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be on this platform, a young parliamentarian. Nigerian Youth Policy Development Advocacy Initiatives is civil society organizations that pilot, that advocate for policies that advance the aspiration of young Nigeria. So that is what the NYPDAI stands for. And for the Youth Quota in Parliament advocacy, this is an advocacy we engaged in last year, middle of last year, and by October last year, 2025, we were able to present the proposal bill to the Chairman House Committee on Youth in Parliament. That is Honorable Olamide Akala, who is the Chairman Committee on Youth in Parliament. And interestingly, it didn't take us a month. In fact, it is less than 3 weeks before the bill surfaces at the floor of the 10th Assembly, and the bill pushes for 30% quota as a guaranteed representation reform for younger people under the age of 35, inclusive of young women and people with disability, who are largely the most marginalized when we talk about leadership and governance in Nigeria.
Okay, what about the Nigerian Youth Policy Development Advocacy?
Yeah, that is the mother body that pushes for the advocacy. The Nigerian Youth Policy Development Advocacy advance and policy that's meet the aspiration of younger Nigerian demography. So, and as you can see, that's what gave birth to the Youth Quota in Parliament bill.
Now, aside the 30% inclusion of youth in the Parliament, what other goals do you seek to achieve? Amplification of youth voice and so many other goals that you seek.
Yeah, one of the cardinal area of interest for the NYPDAI is also capacity building, because we believe that human capacity development of the demographic of the young demographic in Nigeria really needs to be given that intentional inclusivity. What I mean is that globally, it has been said that for a nation to develop to its full minimum, it must have the capacity to invest in the human capital resources of its population. And Nigeria, having been the largest country, a populated country in Africa, and having over 60% of its population a young people, so our organization is committed to ensure also, apart from advocating for policies that meet their aspiration, we're also into capacity building to see how the younger Nigerian could be invested in by all stakeholders, so that we'll be able to achieve the maximum potential that our population holds.
Okay, talking about women in politics, the number of women that we have in the legislative, and both at the national and the sub-regional level, how can you describe the current youth inclusion in the legislative business, of Nigeria, especially as women are concerned? Are you satisfied?
With women participation in politics, in leadership, I think we are still a work in progress. Nigeria is a work in progress. Women participation in politics, leadership, and governance needs to be given adequate attention. And if you go by the activities that was carried out in the 10th Assembly by the promoters of seat reservation for women, why by now that we are preparing for election into the 11th Assembly, there is no sure guarantee that women bill is going to scale through, because the political engagement processes has already started. So it's still what we call in the
work in progress.
Yes, it's work in progress. It's a work in progress. Women participation in politics.
Okay, it's time to take some messages. The program continues thereafter. Do stay with us.
Week, a voice stands out, a leader inspires, and a lawmaker makes the difference. From the chamber of debates to the hearts of the communities, we celebrate men and women shaping our democracy. Who is making impact? Who is driving change? Who is standing tall for the people? Join us as we spotlight excellence, celebrate service, and honor leadership. Legislator of the Week, where democracy meets inspiration. Stay tuned for Legislator of the Week, showing only on NTA Parliament. Don't miss Legislator of the Week, your window into impactful leadership.
If you're just tuning in, the program you're watching is Young Parliamentarians showing on NTA Parliament. Now I've been discussing with an advocate of youth inclusion in decision-making process, Blessing Flexbanner Oyefeso. Viewers, you can join the conversation on the social media platforms showing on your screen. Let me continue, you are also a humanitarian and by extension an entrepreneur, especially when we consider the number of female advocates, of youth inclusion in politics and by extension in the parliament. With this experience of yours, as an entrepreneur and a humanitarian, how do you see yourself bringing this into, your plan to make sure that this bill scales through?
Yeah, thank you very much. If you look at the composition of the implementation team for the youth quota in parliament advocacy, you discover that largely it's dominated by the younger demographic. I mean, young people, in fact, we have more women, more younger women that are part of the advocacy pushing it. Why? Because for the first time, I haven't gone around promoting the reason why young people should be included in parliament in decision making. We discovered that more younger women tend to on board, tends to align with the vision of promote, because largely for the first time younger women under 35 are now going to have a bill. I mean, their rights will be guaranteed constitutionally once the bill scale through. And we have quite a number of them that are leading the change, advocating to ensure that the bill pushes through. And while we are doing the advocacy outside to make sure that the 11th Assembly, whose primary election will begin any moment from now, ensure and to make sure that they have a level playing ground for young women under the age of 35, both at the National Assembly and State Assembly, being given tickets, being sponsored by the party, and also being supported by the lovers of democracy.
And so do you think that the humanitarian and entrepreneurial aspect of these women will help in their leadership quality when they get to those positions?
Of course. You see, what we are missing largely in Nigeria, and I think I can attribute that to one of the reasons why we are where we are today, because we have limited numbers of women with substance, and that are parts and parcel of the instrumentality, or that part and parcel of the engine room of government. We only have them few. If you check the numbers of appointees, you see that it's predominantly dominated by the men folks, while the younger women, or even the older women, because we have fewer younger women engaged in the 10th Assembly. There are no younger women as we speak, So if we bring the younger women on board into the leadership, women have the way of trying to repair the house. As a father, if you recall that if you go out to do your business and you have a lovely wife at home and we have young kids, still vibrant, and they will scatter the house, they will destroy everything, they will do so many things to turn the house upside down. And when you come back, you'll be amazed that you won't see any stains. You won't see the house will not be scattered. It's not that the house is not being scattered by your children, but it's because you have a woman. You have a woman that has taken care of the house. So that is what the Nigerian system is missing. We need to bring more women on board, because women are nation builders. Women knows how to go about repairing things that are destroyed. You understand? So that is one message that we put in forward, because we understand the value of women. We know that when we bring more women on board, then the nation will be able to solve some critical issues that we are faced with.
And they are mothers too.
They are mothers.
We call them salt of the world.
Exactly.
Okay, you were the youngest governorship candidate in the 2019 Ogun State governorship poll, and prior to that, you served as the national youth leader of Justice Must Prevail Party in 2017. Do you see your experience propelling you to more political height?
Well, for some of us, we find ourselves in the leadership space not intentionally.
Accidentally.
Like Malam El-Rufai say, accidental public servant. So that's, I think I resonate with that. I find myself in the leadership space accidentally because I've been an entrepreneur. I have a company that runs Exposure Multimedia Consult back then. So, and all of a sudden, I discovered that largely what I do, what my passion is to contribute to the development of the society. And by 2016, I found myself being introduced officially to a political party which is Justice Must Prevail. And I wanted to take the back seat because it is not my calling, it is not my doing as at then. But I was spotted out, and within the space of 1 to 2 months, the leadership of the party had to call me up to say, okay, young man, we've seen your potential, we've seen what you are capable of. We want you to lead the youth wing of this party. I was like, I just came. They say no, but look at the few things that you have done. Before you know it, I was announced as the national youth leader of the party, and I think my records are there. I had to do within my power. And also, by leading up to the election 2019, and I was still called upon again 2018 that why am I not participating in the election? And I had to say, fully. I say, Mommy, I think it was Dr. Sarah Jubril. She called me around 7:05, thereabout. That youth leader, why are you not picking up form to go into it? I said, Mommy, I am not called to be a public servant. I just support. He said, no, you have to. In fact, they summoned me with the elders of the party, and they look at it and say, young man, there is a challenge in Ogun State, and we know that you have the capacity to fit in and put yourself into the political scene. And that's, before you know, I was surprised. And I tried to reject it, but it wasn't possible. And that usher a new chapter for me, because having that done, I went through all the process. I was announced as the governorship candidate, youngest in 2019 in Ogun State, and I put myself together to now realize. It was then I now realized that there is a calling in leadership that I need to answer. So after the election 2019, which I deputed, and I had to come back, I have a first-hand information or the marginalization, the challenges that the younger people are faced in leadership and governance. In fact, after the election 2019, I had to go to the SGF. The SGF of them invited the young people that contested, and it was in fact, there was something that was revealed to us that young people without finances, without some sort of godfatherism, have no future to bring on board their ingenuity to solve the problem of the nation. So that resonates with me, and I look at it that I have to give him my best to ensure that I put in more effort to promote young people's participation in leadership and government and politics. And that is why we have been advancing the cause to motivate and encourage young people to engage. In fact, there are more young people that are doing so well, even in the civil society organization, but they see politics as something no-go area. So these are some of the these are some of the things, bad notion we are trying to correct. It is our nation. It's time for the younger people to put themselves together to save the nation by participating in politics and leadership process.
Okay. With the support of the House of Representatives Committee on Youth in Parliament and the 10th Assembly as a whole, do you see the youth quota in Parliament bill being passed and adequately implemented nationally and at sub-national level?
Oh, thank you very much. I think we never thought.
Not only being passed, but being fully implemented, like we saw as regards the Not Too Young to Run, bill that became a law under President Muhammadu Buhari. Do you see this? Do you see the practicability of this one after being passed into law?
Of course, the National Assembly have no choice, because our argument is simple, it's loud and clear. We are working with data, we are working with statistics, we are working with international best practice. We are not asking for what is not rightfully ours. We are asking for a fair, equitable representation. We are not asking for anything. equitable representation of the larger population of our nation. It's the youth. If you look at the composition of the 10th Assembly, I said it earlier, we have less than 8 younger people under 35 out of 360 representation across the federal seats. Isn't that mind-blowing? When you are making laws for the larger demography and they are not on the table, isn't that disenfranchisement? Isn't that marginalization? So what the youth quota bill in Parliament is seeking is, like, the younger people have come together to realize, and that is why the theme, the motto for the advocacy is from eligibility to representation.
Okay.
What does it mean? In 2018, we got the Not Too Young to Run, which was signed into law by late President Muhammadu Buhari. The younger people like me and you that came together, in fact, more younger women came to support that movement. And we got Not Too Young to Run bill in 2018. And moving forward, we will look at it. What that bill gave us, what the act gave us, is eligibility. It breaks the barrier for younger people to do what? To participate in the process. Before now, younger people under 35 are not liable to contest. In fact, I said it earlier. I contested, I was the youngest governorship candidate in 2019. I was 34 years old. Without the Not Too Young to Run, I wouldn't be liable, I won't be able to contest. So there are other people that contest the election in their 30s because of Not Too Young to Run. So we look at it. It's a win-win.
Even in their
on
20s, we have examples in state houses of assembly.
Yes, you understand. So we are now look at it now. Eligibility has been gotten. Now we need to secure our representation. So the National Assembly, by the assistant, in fact, I want to do a very good open congratulation, appreciation to Honorable Alao Akala, Olamijuwonlo Alao Akala, the chairman, Youth in Parliament Committee. Is one of the young parliamentarians that I respected. Did you know what? You know, we have so many young people in the parliament, but once we put a letter across to all of them, because we wanted to have a consensus building across those young parliamentarians to back the youth quota in parliament bill. But from all the letters that was sent, immediately we got a response from him that same day. So what does it mean? It means Alao Akala, Honorable Alao Akala, is a forward-thinking young person that has the interests of young people at heart. So his capacity in the House is going to go a long way for us to achieve the bill. And for the implementation of the bill, immediately the bill is implemented, I'm so sure that since it's a constitutional alteration which cuts across, it affected other laws of the land. Once that is done, the implementation is the easiest. Political parties are now liable to ensure that when they are submitting candidate lists, they must meet the 30% quota for both House of Assembly and State Assembly.
It is now a must. It will be a must.
National Assembly and State. It will be a must. Because it's now embedded in the logos and letters of our Constitution. So the implementation is not an issue. It's not a big deal. But the big deal is ensuring that we accelerate the bill. So we call on the leadership of the National Assembly, the 10th Assembly, before they ramp up, to ensure that the bill scale through the second reading, the public hearing, and then onward to harmonization and assent. I'm sure that the current President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is a youthful person. So once the National Assembly has done their part, once it gets to his table, I know it will not take more than 12 hours.
Okay.
For him to ascend it.
Hopefully. Okay, lastly, what is your advice to Nigerian youth and other stakeholders who are seeking opportunities to harness the scalability of this bill? You have a lot of stakeholders during your policy dialogue last week. So
yes, in fact, that takes me to the communique that was issued after the Dialogue for Change Policy Roundtable held last week, and the stakeholders that gathered put together. They adopt a communique that we are now pushing forward. What are the content of the communique? One, but political parties must put themselves in order so that they will ensure that the decision of the young people especially for the 2026 primary election that is starting soon, must be taken serious. The short time target that we gave ourselves, is to meet 20% target. So
at least,
at least 20%, which means the party that is the primary is coming up now. We are expecting political parties to ensure that they sponsor, promote, and encourage more young people to have tickets, because without the ticket, you can't go into election.
Nothing less than 20%.
Nothing less than 20% is not negotiable. You understand? Then secondly, the political party youth leaders who are our liaison officers across all the party, we have tasked them to ensure that they hold the political party chairman and the stakeholders accountable, to hold them, follow them up to make sure that we achieve nothing less than 20% ticket candidacy for both House of Rep and House of Assembly across the state. Then the IPAC chairman, who is an integral partner to the advocacy, has also been they are represented during the conversation, and they are ensuring that the political party abide by the advocacy. And for civil society organization, there have been quite a number of them that have been supportive. I just want to wish them that we will not let them down.
Okay. They are listening to. So, to Nigerian youths as a whole, your advice?
Yes, to Nigerian youth, we are the strength of a nation. Nigeria, to be better, needs our collective contribution into the engine room of government. If the young people are not bringing on board their ingenuity to save the leadership of this nation, I think Nigeria is going nowhere. So that is why we, on our own side, I myself am committed to advocating for young people's rights. I'm committed to promoting youth participation in leadership, governance, and I want them to take this opportunity for 2026 primaries and engage in the process. And 2027, it has to be peaceful, it has to be violence-free, it has to be all-inclusive, and it has to be a credible election.
What an enlightening moment. And an inspiring one, with that strong message to close this chapter. I believe you viewers have really been thrilled. Thanks for gracing the program.
It's a pleasure to be amongst you, and I think NTA is one platform that has been supporting young people's voice, to be amplifying young people's voice. I pray that the Almighty God will continue to enlarge your coast. And also, Nigeria is ours, and the young people are ready to take the lead in leading the change for a greater Nigeria.
You're welcome. It is on this note that we call it today on this episode of the program, Young Parliamentarians. Remember, you can watch this episode and other programs on the online channels showing on your screen, as we look forward to receiving your comments and observations. Join us next time on this same channel for another interesting package. I'm Joshua Okuchide. Once again, thanks for watching, and God bless you. Bye for now.